Today, in not so shocking news, Marvel does not care about its comic creators.
They did not speak to me at the premiere. They did not speak, look, shake my hand. It was classless, and it was honestly, from where I stood, deplorable. They did not speak to me. I pick a name, not just mine. Pick a name. My email to them said, "You do not have a history of treating creators great." Not Rob Liefeld, good creators. The Kirby estate sued them. The Ditko estate sued them. Years long. And guess what? Guess who coughed it up? Okay.
Deadpool and Cable co-creator Rob Liefeld speaks out against Marvel and their treatment of comics creators. Now, this is nothing new, but I think it's something we should talk about. Hey Internet, I'm Chris, and this is a place on the internet where I talk about comics, movies, games, and things I'm generally passionate about. Something Marvel and Disney is not particularly passionate about is comics and comics creators. Over the years, they've had a history of mistreating their creators and not paying them particularly well, especially when the creations of those comic creators become billion-dollar properties in their movies, in their parks, toys, licenses, the whole thing. Halloween costumes, you name it, and the creators haven't been properly compensated. Now, DC doesn't do a particularly great job about it, but hey, they don't slight their creators as much as Marvel does. And the reason Marvel gets a lot of flack is because frankly, they're number one. They're on top. And also, they're owned by Disney. They have the money. You've seen it with Deadpool and Wolverine crossing $1 billion. They can do better. But before we dive too deep into it, please leave a like, comment, subscribe, and let's dive in. Yeah, this conversation is really starting because Rob Liefeld, co-creator of Deadpool and Cable, if you didn't know, one of the biggest comics creators of the modern era, co-created Image with Jim Lee, Todd McFarlane, Mark Silvestri, Jim Valentino, a whole bunch of others, and obviously kicked off a whole new era of comics and really was a part of that big boom in the 90s and also the bust. But Rob is outspoken, also very successful outside of Marvel. And he's someone I think in a position to speak out against Marvel because he no longer works for Marvel. He is someone that really can work with Marvel whenever he wants because he co-created Deadpool, and anytime he puts his name or actually does a book at Marvel, it sells really well. And if he does covers for them, they do really well. Like, I know he's an acquired taste. I know he's a personality. But again, Rob Liefeld sells. And that shows with Deadpool and Wolverine crossing $1 billion and doing really well for Marvel at large. But last year, early February, he talked about the fact that he won't be working on Deadpool anymore. A lot of people just thought it was the fact that he was getting older, maybe just didn't want to do any more Deadpool stories. But recently, he spoke out about the fact that really it was his treatment from Marvel and Disney that led him to that decision. And particularly when it came to credits, something that Marvel doesn't do well or does at all really, is credit comic creators at the beginning of films. We see that a little bit with DC, when Superman movies play, they show the creators. Also with Batman, you get the co-creators of Bob Kane and Bill Finger. And I think DC does a better job of that because they were acquired by Warner Brothers early on. And then also because of the Superman litigation, I think they're just in a better position of being like, hey, just to avoid this, we're not going to do it. But Marvel, for some reason, has never caught on. And it's been, I think, it stings a lot more just because of their success in the movies. And again, they're number one. We've seen creators, and I've talked about it too in a previous video about the creators of Null, Ryan Stegman, and Donny Cates, and sort of them finding out about Null being in the third Venom movie just through the trailers like the rest of us. And you can see just the way, Jim Starlin, who created Thanos, was paid more for KG Beast in Batman vs. Superman than he was for Thanos being the centerpiece of the Infinity Saga, which is insane. And it doesn't take Marvel much to treat their creators better than they already are. Creators are not asking for much. And also, I think the problem is, yes, a lot of people will say, hey, you got into comics, it's a dirty game. You should be happy that you got to work on Spider-Man or you got to work at Marvel or DC. But part of why I think comics in general has sort of seen a decline in quality and also readership is that a lot of talent has abandoned that industry and that medium. Like the people that are in it are really in it for the love of the game, not really the money. Even the most successful and talented people in the comics industry, they could be making more money elsewhere. They're really doing it for the love of the game. They could be doing TV, video games, a whole host of other creative things and other creative industries that actually pay more, and without the headache of having to sort of hunt down publishers for their proper credits or their royalties, or have to do a con circuit and be on the convention circuit every weekend to be able to subsidize their creations and all that. And like I said, Marvel could do a much better job, and also it would help them in the long run. If you look at sort of where they are in terms of a company, also in the MCU, like they're running out of stories. Like they don't have any more big events after Secret Wars. What are they going to really do? Like this year they're going to blow through, next year they're going to blow through Doom. They're going to blow through Galactus. Like really, what more is there? They wasted Secret Invasion on a terrible show. And the comics haven't had any really great events. And some of the great events that have happened in the comics, like something like King in Black, they don't even own the, like, really have the right to do a Venom story or a symbiote story. And the last events, like, they won't do Blood Hunt, because guess what? Blood Hunt involves Blade, and they can't figure that out. So that's never happening. Or do Empire, which was a Fantastic Four event. That's not happening. Or even do an X-Men event. Like, hey, how do you even lead up to X-Men versus the Avengers? Like, the X-Men are not established. The Avengers, like, you just did a Captain America movie, and I haven't seen it yet, so I can't really speak on the quality of it. But hey, like, if Sam Wilson is going to be leading the Avengers in the future, if that's what happens in the movie, like we're just getting that. Like, do we like? And when the Avengers movie does happen, which is Doomsday and then Secret Wars, like those are not really like Avengers team movies as we think about them, like in previous films. Like they're just big crossovers with the whole Marvel universe at this point. So that avenue is out the window. And again, I think if they invested in their creators, they'll see much more return on investment. And it just sucks. Like it's a age-old story of sort of comic creators getting screwed. And Rob has like a lot of his problems with Marvel have to do with him feeling more disrespected than paid, because he has one of the better deals at Marvel when it comes to like how he's compensated for his creations. But, like part of why he was upset is that, he passed by Kevin Feige, didn't get a handshake, was emailing Disney, and they sort of like were ignoring him. And again, if they can ignore Rob Liefeld, they're definitely ignoring most creators. And again, he's kind of a acquired taste. Maybe he's, brash and they don't want to deal with him, but still like, hey, this guy co-created the center of your biggest movie in years. You should at least respect that. The same way you would respect the director or the actors in it and those kind of things. And it wouldn't take much for them to give a little bit of a royalty, a producer credit for some of them. And then also like just making sure that they are credited in a much bigger way. Like you only see that special thanks at the very end of the credits. Yes, Marvel has made the end of the credits a thing where we all stay for, but the reality is like the last few post-credit scenes have sucked. So I think more people than ever are probably leaving early when it comes to these. So if you're waiting to the end to see who co-created these characters or established, you're not going to really see it. And if you look at characters like Stan Lee is probably the biggest creator at Marvel that gets the credit he deserved, because he was in all those movies in cameos, and we all love Stan. Like I grew up on Stan Lee being even in the animated series, so I know a lot of people have sort of seen him as someone that's taken a lot more credit than he's deserved, which is fair, but I think he was a great ambassador for comics. But hey, like the same way you spotlight Stan, you should be spotlighting Jack Kirby, Steve Ditko, who co-created Doctor Strange, you have Spider-Man, like all these things that this billion-dollar empire is built on the imagination of these creators. And the more they deviate from that, which you see in the MCU, because a lot of these movies are getting further and further away from the comics, and they're respecting the creators less and less and less, which means like, hey, this is why these movies haven't been working the way they should. And now these are movies, like they're gonna adapt things. You don't have to make one to one. No one's saying, hey, let's, create like comic creators should be the writers or the co-writers, that might be a good idea. But really, you should respect it so that it pays dividends in the future. Like if you pay your comic creators more, you get more talent, more young people might be interested in becoming comics creators in the future to be able to support themselves and their families while pursuing their passion. But the more you see things like that, it's like if I'm a creator and Rob Liefeld, the man who co-created Cable and Deadpool, is getting treated like that, like why would I want to put my best idea at Marvel? Like if I'm a creator at Marvel, I would just be like, all right, let me just work on a series here to get my name up, and then my best idea, I'll just save it so that when I have a creator owned book, I'll just put it in that, which is completely makes sense. And I think we're making a turn in the comics a little bit. Marvel's been really stale, but DC, you've got All In and the Absolute Universe. Some stuff at Marvel, like the Ultimates has been great, and I like Philip Kennedy Johnson's The Hulk. But that line is super stale, and they're really weak when it comes to storytelling. And that is showing also in the movies. It's just super stale, and I think that lack of respect for creators is shining through, and I think they have an opportunity to change things around, especially with these Avengers movies coming up. But who knows, man? I think they really have to turn it around with this, and I don't think it ever will. It's, as Rob has shared, it seems like it's a cultural thing at Marvel. When you think about what happened in the 90s and all those great creators going off and going to Image, what they really did was like leave Marvel, because that's what like Marvel was known for, and it's still known for that. It's, there's a lot of creators now, superstar creators, that can't survive just off their page rate at Marvel or DC, and they have to do conventions and all those kind of things. And what that leads to, hey, less good art in books, less artists doing consistent books, and that is why people fall off of books. And again, the quality, all top down, is affected. Yeah, it's kind of like a rant about sort of Marvel and their treatment of comic creators. It seems like they don't really care, and it's gotten worse because, like I said, the movies have deviated further away from the comic storytelling, and also the comics have gotten increasingly stale. But what do you think? Do you think Marvel is doing right by their creators? Can they do more? Or, hey, if you're a comics creator, you knew what Marvel was. You knew if they treated Stan Lee, Jack Kirby in a certain way, what makes you any different? Let me know. Like, comment, subscribe. Peace.
Right? It doesn't seem right to me.
No.
What is it about DC that's so nice and so bad about Marvel? I don't get it.
I don't know either.
I don't know. Maybe it's Disney.